Hey, everybody, this is Movie Recap Nation, and this is Papillon. The movie tells a story based on a true story of an ex-convict nicknamed Papillon.
I know many of you are thinking about escape.
This is your best chance.
Feel free to try whenever you like.
The movie begins with the message that the story is based on real events. Then a window opens in the iron prison door, from which the main character Henri Cherrier, a prisoner nicknamed Papillon, looks out. The events take place in Paris in 1931. Papillon in an expensive suit opens a safe in someone's apartment, then descends down the gutter and goes to a cabaret. He has a meeting with the owner of the establishment, who can't wait to show him how the thugs beat up some poor man. According to the ringleader, he ratted him out to the police, taking the diamond loot from the bear hunter. The ringleader hints, not transparently, that Henri will suffer a worse fate if he tries to conceal the proceeds more than he should. Later, Papillon waits in the alley when his girlfriend's shift is over. A girl with very deft hands for honest work. He gives her a necklace, but the unaccounted-for jewelry catches the eye of one of the ringleader's underlings. After a stormy night of drinking in the street in front of the performing artists, the landlord, who does not suspect anything bad about him, knocks on the apartment of naked Henri and his girlfriend. The thief opens the door and the gendarmes break in, accusing the same snitch who had been beaten up the day before of murdering the local pimp. Saying goodbye to the girl he loves, Papillon promises to escape and return to her. In the cell with the burglar unilaterally acquainted with the raider Duilo. A new friend recommends getting some money, otherwise there is no way to escape. During the group physical, Juliet shows him Louis Degas of the counterfeiters, who must surely have money. After the citizenship examination, the prisoners are told that they are being deported to French Guiana, a colony in South America, where they will serve out their due sentence for the rest of their lives, while entertaining hard labor for the good of their homeland. On the ship, Henri offers Louis patronage in exchange for some of the money needed to organize an escape. Otherwise, the proletariat, eager to expropriate the loot, will be concerned that the crook will not have time to spend the money before his untimely demise. Louis refuses, but that same night witnesses a huge fat man gut his neighbor for his stash. Realizing he will be the next counterfeiter, accepts Papillon's offer for the next night. A fat man with a knife tries to kill Louis, but is defended by his new friend. A fight breaks out, which the guards stop by blowing hot steam into the hold. Henri's bloody hands testify to his participation in the fight. He is then punished by being shackled. During the landing, Juliet falls down the stairs, having previously injured his leg with a hidden shiv. He is taken to the sanitary unit, and the rest of the men are taken to a lifelong boarding house. Those who have seen the sights. The commandant frankly admits that he doesn't mind prisoners trying to escape. Those who don't get shot will be put in solitary confinement for 2 years with recidivism for 5 years. If they manage to get away, Moreau is teeming with hungry sharks. But if someone inadvertently kills someone, the glorious French invention guillotine in the first half of the 20th century was still actively used in civilized countries, just in such cases. But hot guy Henri is a real rebel. A dutiful son of anarchy's mother. Warnings have no effect on him. He's already plotting a daring plan for early release. First, he must get to the infirmary. To the business-like Juliet to make the distribution. He makes a deal with the local solver, but he needs money. Louis has to pull a capsule of his stash out of his anus. In the process, he'll get a known substance all over the money. But the money doesn't smell. After a voluntary contribution to a fund for the needy, Louis and Henri are assigned to the infirmary as orderlies. The plan seemed to work. But the deputy commandant recognizes the counterfeiter. He has a personal score to settle. So the creative duo is sent to hard labor, carrying heavy weights. Here they meet Cellier and almost lose their stash. When Louis gets too tense, he pushes a cart full of rocks. Henri finds the capsule and gives it back to him. Not so much out of friendship, but out of reluctance to keep the finances in the oven. In the campground, Henri and Cellier discuss the possibility of an escape. The watchman has some ideas, but needs money for a boat. The conversation is interrupted by a fight between a bulky man and Louis, who wants to take the money from him. Papillon steps in, but the convoy stops the outrage with a warning shot in the air. On the way back, the guards pick up a local ferryman with a shipment of fresh courtesans. Papillon tries to negotiate with him for a getaway, but the man nearly turns him in by haggling over a big price. In the end, he agrees to help only for the full 3 days, after which the boat will depart the island. Later, during a shower, a group of companions try to redistribute material goods. But brute physical strength, a bit of luck, and an educational pummeling allow Henri to maintain the status quo. However, the incident suggests that he will not last long here and asks to be taken with him to freedom. The next day, the prisoners are gathered in the square for execution. Some of them try to escape, stabbing a couple of guards to death. The condemned man is Juliet. Henri rises from his seat. Recognizing him after beheading him, the commandant orders Papillon and another prisoner of his choice to remove the body. Henri chooses Louis, who is not at all happy to carry the corpse. As they carry the body to the boat, the rogue becomes ill and collapses. The convoy beats him with a whip, which pisses Papillon off. The burglar hits the jailer with a stone on the head and prepares to flee. The exhausted Louis, who has lost his glasses and cannot even stand, has to be left behind, and Henri jumps into the river to the whistle of bullets fired by the escort. By nightfall, Papillon reaches the ferryman's boat. He has no money with him, but he promises to pay later. The ferryman laughs in response, and his friends emerge from the darkness with guns. They have a contract with the commandant to catch fugitives, paid better than the convicts can offer. Henri is locked in solitary confinement for 2 years, where the silence cannot be disturbed. There he is periodically beaten and fed only enough to keep him on his feet. One day, however, he finds half a bucket of water, coconuts, and a note saying that he will be better fed from now on. The increased rations allow Papillon to perk up. He begins to exercise to keep himself in shape. Protein, now there's plenty of it, just like in a glorious American prison. He escapes the dreadful fate of being imprisoned by a happy accident. Suspecting something wrong, the wardens checked the bucket one day and found a smuggled coconut. After the commandant himself came to ask who was feeding him so carefully, Papillon studiously kept silent, even when his already meager rations are cut in half. Then they closed the roof over his head, plunging him into total darkness. Even when the starving, gaunt prisoner is tempted with fresh soup, he does not give up his benefactor. From darkness, silence, loneliness, and hunger, Papillon is tormented by hallucinations and visions of the past. But he does not give up, and after 2 years he is transferred from the punishment cell to the infirmary, where he successfully portrays a madman. During this time, Louis managed to become a clerk and gain some freedom among the prisoners. He visits his friend in the hospital, and he informs him that he has not given up the idea of escape. But now the plan is developed by the crook himself. In a few days, a movie show will be arranged for the local important dignitaries. The commandant will increase the security, but it will be mainly near the guests, not on the perimeter. In addition, the noise from the movie will mask footsteps and other activity. Henri plans the details. He feigns fits of riotousness so that the doctor will give him a sedative, which is successfully postponed. Then she talks herself to the left-handed kid, on whom the thuggish orderly has set his eyes and stayed for female affection. At the right hour, he will have to be distracted. The final touch is the meeting with Cellier. He cuts his hands to get to the hospital, but can still get a boat. If there's money to be made, Louis has to give him almost everything he has left. On the appointed day, Louis, acting as a waiter, slips a sedative into the vodka he hands to the guard, supposedly a gift from the commandant. At this time, Maturette distracts the lustful big man of the guard, and Henri and Cellier unscrew the legs from the bed, and then go to the shower room, where they stun the guard. With his keys, they go down to the first floor. The guards are already unconscious from the vodka sedative cocktail. The fugitives wait for Louis, but he is detained by the commandant. Suddenly it starts to rain. The open-air movie session is interrupted and the guests are escorted to the roof. But the lights go out because of a short circuit. At the sound of an automatic siren, Louis unlocks the door for his comrades and together they go to the prison wall. When they jump down from it, the electricity turns on. From the surprise, Louis falls and breaks his leg. He is dragged in the rain to the riverbank where the sellers must be waiting. They are met by armed men. Louis has to give the last of his money to take them to the hidden boat. But the plan succeeds and it is dawn. The fugitives take a boat down the river to the ocean outlet. However, the dinghy fills up with water excessively. The navigator's grief is not being dredged up in time. Cellier suggests Papillon to get rid of the extra ballast, by which is meant one of the minor traveling companions. The noble intruder, of course, refuses, not for that they have been together since the first kilometer. The situation escalates when a storm appears on the horizon. Cellier, having pitted Maturette against Louis, pulls out a knife. However, the smarmy one also didn't woo the guard for nothing to now kill his underlings. He lunges at the big man, but flies overboard. A fight breaks out between Cellier and Papillon, in which the former nearly drowns the latter. Louis, who had been sitting on the sidelines, realizing that this outcome would not be good for him, picks up a drop shiv and starts poking it into Cellier's back, throwing the corpse overboard and picking up Maturette. They get caught in a storm. In the next scene, Henri wakes up somewhere in a hut on some island. It is unclear how they got to land, but the local natives, led by Christian missionaries, shelter them. Papillon finds Louis with a tire on his broken leg and tells him to leave. But the man refuses. When he warned Henri that Cellier could not be trusted, the latter did not listen to him. Maturette doesn't want to leave either. He's finally popular not just with the fat prison guards, but with the charming natives. Papillon leaves the coastal camp alone. But as he climbs the mountain, he sees the prison guard's car, alerted by a nun. He hurries a short way back to warn his accomplices, but does not have time to do so. He is shot before his eyes, and they are tied up together with Louis, who is touched to the core by the fact that Henri came back for him, risking himself. In the next scene, a slimmed-down and sedated Papillon is released from solitary confinement after 5 years. The commandant sends him to Devil's Island, a terrible prison on a lonely rock in the middle of the ocean, from which it is impossible to escape, for there is nowhere to go. There, in an old fortress, the dregs of prison society live out their last days, left to fend for themselves. Henri is met by an aged Louis. The commandant did not want to keep him in solitary confinement for 2 years for his first escape and sent him straight to eternal exile on the island. Having thus preserved the remnants of reason, the crook draws pictures on the walls and generally lives quite well compared to the rest of the contingent. But even after all these years, Henri wasn't satisfied with that. He's still planning his escape. To do so, he needs access to the ocean. Louis leads him to a cliff, from which purely theoretically it is possible to jump into the water and survive. But where to go then without a boat? Watching the waves and tides, Papillon notices a pattern and makes a plan to make a raft out of improvised materials, which the current will carry to the material. They can make it out of sacks of coconuts and improvised materials. However, on the day of the escape, the crook refuses. Unlike Henri, he has nowhere to go back to, and he's already settled in pretty well here, and it is necessary to survive the jump from the cliff. The friends say goodbye, after which Papillon throws the raft into the water and jumps off. Louis mot writ on the circles on the water, but does not see his comrade. Already losing hope, he takes off his glasses and wipes his tears. When a cheering shout came from below, Henri swims out and clings to the makeshift raft. They say goodbye to each other once more, after which the Papillon bobs on the vast ocean waves. Suddenly, a jet-powered passenger liner sails through the sky. The case moves back to 1969. An aged but surviving Henri flies to Paris, where he is still a criminal. He brings to the publishing house his memoirs of his hard life in the colonial settlement, which he wrote down while he still remembers something. These notes are to be published in France, the country that wrongly sentenced him to such a life. The movie ends with archival footage and credits that while Papillon was still alive, that prison was closed forever. The book became a bestseller and he was granted a pardon by the Minister of Justice. That's all for now. Share your impressions in the comments and subscribe to the channel. Have a good day.